I'm pleased to introduce Team Visual Wilderness here today. We've got the lovely Verena Patel. Say hi, Verena.
Hello, hello. It's good to see everybody.
And we've got my guru, Mr. Jay Patel. Welcome,
hello.
Jay. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Excellent. So, yeah, welcome everybody to the show. This is going to be great. Let's get into it.
So, Verena, you are going to be moderating the show, so I'll hand it over to you next.
Oh, now he tells me. So, we're going to be talking about our latest assignment for this show, our July assignment, which was a single color. We got so many really cool entries for this, and I have to admit, this is one of my favorites that we've done so far. I love single color images. They are fascinating to me. They're challenging. They're so much fun to try and get. And so you know, I was sort of eagerly watching to see what we were going to come up with for this particular for this assignment. So Jay has a collection of images there that he's showing on his screen, and we're going to start bringing them up and talking about them a little bit. You know, we'll do a little bit of critique, and we'll sort of just talk about each image as we go through it. So Jay, you want to go ahead and get us started?
So before I go into the critique, I wanted to say that the number of images that were submitted in this assignment was just awesome. And one of the best thing about this particular assignment is when you think about single color, we always say, hey, macro shots, right? Because you have a small field of view or a long angle, long lens shot with a small field of view, and you don't have to worry too much about lots of different things coming into the picture. But we were actually, frankly, stunned by the creativity of people submitting the images. There were lenses, long lenses were used. Macro obviously was used. People submitted some very creative assignments that when you see this critique, you will notice that not only did they go about submitting the images with those two lenses, but wide-angle shots at blue hour, which is just calling for a single color. So great job by Visual Wilderness community. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first image. And Verena, do you want to go on the first image, or do you want me to go with the first image? All right. So let me go ahead and lock the screen on mine, and I will go ahead and blow up that image as much as I could because some of the images were submitted were small. So let's see. All right. Is this good?
Sure.
Or maybe, you know what, I'll put it in a preview mode so it goes to the left. So how is that? Better?
Much better.
Yes.
Yep. All right, so this is a shot from Ratul, and you know that the rich blues in this shot, these beautiful, subtle blue tones are just gorgeous to me. I love the details in this shot. I love the range of tones from very dark to much brighter. You know, look at the side of that boat. Look at the reflection on the boat. I just think it's beautiful. So this shot really stood out to me. There are a couple of things I might do just a little bit differently here, though. One is the horizon feels crooked. Now, this is something that came up in the forums. It's something that a couple of people mentioned. And Ratul actually said, you know, he's pretty sure that the horizon is straight. Now, that may be. Maybe the horizon is straight. It's actually very difficult to tell. I went in, I checked. It's hard to tell if it's straight because you have the horizon line that stands out on the right-hand side of the image, which is very, very subtle. You also have the horizon. You also have the horizon in the center of the image along the edge of that little island. And, of course, there's no horizon visible at all on the left. And so, you know, what do you do with a horizon like this? In the end, what matters is whether or not the horizon feels straight, whether or not it looks straight to the viewer. In some cases, I have actually had to adjust an image so my horizon is deliberately not straight in order to make it appear straight. So I think this is one of those images where just a little bit of a tilt to the right will really help it so that image, or so that the horizon feels straight to the viewer, so it doesn't feel slightly off kilter.
So I wanted to comment on that as well. So I think that what one of the things is that when I first look at the image, I know that the real horizon is probably the one that is on your right side, which is further away from you. And this is probably a false horizon created by an island, which could be a different shape. But because there is such a low contrast as you go further away because of the fog, the false horizon of the island dominates the scene. So when I look at it, the image feels slightly tilted to the left.
Yeah, that's exactly the issue that I noticed too. In fact, when I checked the horizon on the right, it appeared to be correct, but the horizon in the center appears to be wrong. And so, like Jay said, it's probably a false horizon. That's typical of any, the edge of a body of water where it could be coming towards you or away from you. And with this kind of very subtle lighting, with the heavy fog, it's really hard to tell. So that'd help. Yeah.
And I love this image too. What I really like about it is actually, I think the fog for me is what makes this image, that gives it the depth into that island. That island is misty and not in focus, and I just love that about this image. It really gives a lot of depth from that sharp jetty to the boat out to the island. And yeah, great job. Yeah, great job. I love it.
Johnny, what do you think of that tiny boat in the distance on the left with the figures in it? Isn't that just awesome?
And it gives a bit. Good sense of scale, I was going to say as well. It gives you a little bit of scale, and the guy, really good job. Awesome capture. I think.
So there's one other thing that I do want to point out about this image. As much as we are singing praises of this, one of the things that I did not like about the image, horizon didn't bother me as much, is if you look at on my screen, if you look at this little thumbnail, you can obviously see the vignetting that was done to the image. There's a bright ring right at the center over here. It isn't quite as obvious in a larger photo, and I'm assuming that if I were to blow it up even larger, that vignetting will be more subtle. My personal take was the vignetting is slightly too heavy, or the transition between light and dark should be more gradual. Is my recommendation.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. That really stood out to me as well. I noticed it in the smaller thumbnail, but I think it's also visible in the larger sized image as well. There's this sort of brighter area in the center. It works, the vignetting. It's not that I'm suggesting taking away the vignetting entirely. What I would do is make the feather of the vignette more extreme.
Yes.
The transition.
The transition is more gradual.
Exactly.
All right.
That would help a lot.
All right. So here's a second shot, and
I think this is where we have to say, yeah, we know it's not a wilderness or a landscape shot, but we liked it anyway.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So can you guys see this shot, or is my screen stuck somewhere?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay.
No, cool. Looks good.
All right, so I'll take the critique on this. I posted a similar photo like this for the raw assignment, and I have to say that this shot has exceeded that photo in a lot of respects. The softness in the background is awesome. The single color assignment is fulfilled completely. Plus, the focus is just right. The focus on the drops and letting everything else in the background blur out was awesome. And I wish it was a wilderness shot, because, I mean, if instead of a big city and CN Tower in Toronto, if there were like Grand Tetons and mountains or Swiss Alps, it would be just breathtaking. I mean, people would want to put it as a large frame and hang it in their wall. But needless to say, the processing and the assignment is done very, very well by, I think Supneet is the name, if I'm correct pronouncing it correctly. So well done. I mean, there's very little to critique in this shot except that it's not a wilderness shot, but other than that, it is done to perfection.
Mm-hmm. I really love the brighter highlights in the buildings out there. I love the deeper shadows. I think it's actually tilted just very slightly to the left, but again, it may actually be the rain on the window that's making it feel that way, or some other, you know, something else that's happening in the frame. It feels just very slightly tilted to me, and I'm only talking about the tower, the tallest tower there. It feels like it's slightly tilted. Do you guys agree? Do you see that, or is it just me?
I mean, I'll have to go measure it to see it, but
It's pretty close.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
close. I'll give you that. It might be that my head's off kilter.
But, hey guys, with a shot, I got a question for you guys. With a shot like this through glass with water, would a bit of distortion come into play there with those straight lines?
Yeah, that's a good.
Depending on what focal length you're at.
And what lens you use. Some lens will have
Yeah.
more distortion than others, because I can see some of these buildings
Yeah.
being distorted over here, but not a big deal. I mean,
Yeah, the distortion's actually pretty mild.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you wanted to reproduce this shot yourself, that'd be something to really look for. And I think this person's done a really great job with that, you know?
yeah. And I think you can correct some of the distortion in lens filter function in Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw if you have
Yeah, for sure.
file for it.
Yeah. I think the key to getting a photo like this just right is to really pay attention to those highlights. Don't let them blow out to the point where they hurt to look at. And, you know, don't lose your shadows either. You know, this is a case where you're dealing with pretty low light, but you have the bright light of the buildings, and so balancing that is important.
Cool. All right. Next one.
Yep.
All right. This one, the shot is Ugo J shot.
Whoops, you spelled that wrong.
I spelled the spelling wrong, so ignore that.
Yeah.
But great job. One of my favorite places to shoot, out in Southwest United States. So, Raina, you want to go for this one?
I think what I really love about this shot is that I can see the details in the rocks way in the distance. It's so subtle and so, you know, just almost faded out to nothing, but it's just beautiful. So I love that. I love the layers. You know, you've got these really, they're really nice contrast in the foreground layer, fading contrast as you go back, and then the extremely subtle contrast way in the distance. I think it works beautifully. The only thing that draws my eye away is the area on the left side of the photo. You have a couple of heavier looking rocks. You know, they're very dark, they're very dominant, and they pull my eye away from these more delicate rocks that are right there in the foreground that I think are really the point of interest for this particular image. To me, cropping those out, cropping to, Jay, if you move your cursor over a little bit, I'm guessing you know, yep, I was going to say, I bet Jay knows exactly where I'd crop it. Yeah, right there, I would just take away that heaviest, well, the heavy and tall rock on the left.
Correct.
And that'll bring my eye in right where I think it belongs.
Yep. I actually was going to say that when I looked at the photo, I was like, oh, I would have cropped this way, because even though this tall rock over here is a distraction, it creates a great frame for these, the more closer rocks, which has a lot more detail in it. So I was just thinking that I say it's a little bit unbalanced composition. If you could just crop it slightly, it would balance more.
Yeah, those rocks on the left make it feel heavy over there.
Yeah, but great details and colors. And this is one of the things that I noticed about this assignment is a lot of people took this assignment, and rather than trying to create these vibrant colors, they went and looked at the atmosphere. So if you look at all of these things, fog and rain and haze, they all bring together this atmosphere that actually renders the colors that you see kind of, they mute it out. And people use their creativity to come up with solutions for this assignment. So great job, guys.
That's not something we suggested either. We didn't say, hey, you know, the golden hour and the blue hour and fog, those are great times to do this. This is just what people did. So it's kind of neat.
And that is the difference between technical expertise and workflow. Thinking about what you want to accomplish. If you want to accomplish a single color image, then getting creative like this and looking for things that mute out the colors or situations is what it demonstrates is proficiency in workflow. And the more proficient you become in there, the better your photos will come out long term. So, all right, so the next one.
Johnny, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
look, no, that's all right. I was just going to say, I think you did a great job. I mean, for me, the sky is probably a little bit hot for me. That's just my eyes on my screen at the moment, but that's nothing. You know, a little grad in Lightroom and maybe a little yellow tinge might have just helped that for me. But other than that, beautiful image, beautiful location, and I just love those little rocks in the background near the horizon. That's just awesome.
Yeah.
Just in the shadow there, epic. Good job.
Yeah, I actually, I was thinking about that sky too, Johnny. I wondered if anybody else would mention it. And, my first thought was, oh, he should have cropped that in. And then I look at this image at the larger size, and I went, no way! Don't you dare crop it out. Because then these beautiful shapes disappear.
Yep.
They get too close to the top of the image. I said, no way. The sky stays. It has to. So, I hear you.
I definitely like it, but yeah, maybe that's what I probably would have tried in Lightroom to see how that looked. But that's it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of debating about the sky as well on that. So, but good job, Ugo.
Yeah, and it would make a cool black and white conversion too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all right.
It's actually often true for monotone or single color images that they make good black and white conversions.
Oh yeah, those what am I trying to say? Those greys in the background where those shadows of those rocks would be. Oh, I'd love that area. Awesome job.
All those tones. Oof, love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's look at Tanya's shot.
All right, so Tanya's shot. I will let Reina go ahead with this one.
Yeah, this is a shot I love. And for me, minimalist photography, I just love minimalist photography. These are the images that kind of make me go, oh, wow, because other people aren't doing this. This is different. It's unique. It's beautiful. And you know what? You've taken these snow crystals or ice crystals, and they've become the most important element in the frame, despite the fact that the entire frame is full of these little crystals, right? I mean, that's all it is. It's just these little snow crystals, and yet using a very, very narrow depth of field, you've brought us in and made this one single strip the most important area. And then to go beyond that a little bit, I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but there's a little bit of a darker area right there in the center, and it draws your eye in right there in the center of right there where Jay's pointing now. That area, it kind of draws my eye, and so it simplifies even that area that, that long strip. It tells me where my eye belongs. I just love it. I think it's so peaceful. It's quiet. This image to me feels like winter. It feels the way winter does because it's cold and it's quiet to me.
So I have a very different take on it. This is not.
He sure does.
My favorite, to be honest with you. Not because the technique is not good. The technique is very creative. The assignment objective is there, and Reina and I kind of debated this morning whether this image is a point of interest, and Reina says it does. And sure enough, if I can technically defer to her judgment saying this has a point of interest, which is these ice crystals. But what it doesn't define for me is the point of interest in comparison with rest of the photograph is very small. And when I looked at the image, I was noticing that there is this dark area over here. Is this a point of interest or is this a point of interest? So my eye kind of goes back and forth as to what am I seeing? Now, having read your description, I noticed that what you were trying to do was to get the narrow strip. But let's suppose that I haven't read your description and I come across this photo hanging in the wall or in a part of your portfolio. I would look at that and I will step back and I wonder what this is.
That's funny because, see, I didn't read her description until after I went, ooh, I love this shot.
No, that may be true, but it's not my opinion. And to me, I think that I was going to suggest a larger point of interest, which actually is more of a recognizable form. But again, in a critique, and like every critique goes, people view things a little differently.
Yep.
Warina's style of photography is minimalistic, and I am pretty sure that that she was drawn to the minimalism. My style of photography is more subtle, obvious, and something that smacks you in the face. And so
And I think that's really good.
Tiebreaker.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's a really good point. I'm just going to be like the mutual guy here, but I actually do like this image. You know, obviously I love Verina's minimalistic work. I mean, it's something, if I could get something close to that for some of my stuff, it's amazing. But I get Jay's point too, and my eye does bounce back and forth, but I think that kind of works. Given there is a line of focus, it sort of bounces back and forth and then flows into the frame. So, but look, I think that's a great point. You know, a lot of this stuff is really subjective, and you know that's what's so great about what we do. You can really develop your own style, and yeah, not everyone's gonna love it, but there are people who are gonna think it's awesome. So, I think you did a good job, and thinking out of the box and doing something a little bit different is really, I think it's paid off here. Yeah.
Nice job, Tanya.
And just to be honest, Johnny likes Verina better than me anyway, so.
Oh, come on, Jay. You're my guru, bro. Come on, bro. You know.
I'm just pulling your leg, Johnny. I haven't seen you in a while, so I haven't had a chance to pull your leg.
Yeah, it's all good, mate. It's all good.
All right. So this next, go ahead, sweetheart. Do you have something to say on this?
Nope. I was ready for the next one.
All right. So this next one, I'll let Verina comment. We both had the same thought on this one.
Yeah. So this one really stood out to me, and I'm going to explain this. Now, again, I realize this is not a nature shot, and I'm going to talk about it anyway. And the reason is because I saw this image first, and I said, that's really a beautiful area. But boy, the contrast looks a little flat. And I thought, that's interesting. And then I read his description, and he said it was an HDR, and I looked at it, and I thought, I wonder why. I wonder why he decided to HDR it. Now, this is something that happens all the time. People will, Jay, can you bring that image back, please?
Yeah, I'm coming.
People will, use HDR when it's really not necessary. HDR is generally, it's used in one of two ways. Either to, can you bring back the other image, please, Jay? Either to handle a situation where the range of light is beyond what a camera can handle, or for an HDR-ish effect, that look that's very HDR. Now, this image doesn't feel particularly HDR-ish, so I thought, okay, well, I'm not sure exactly why he used it. And then sure enough, he posted this photo, which is brilliant. Look at the depth in this image. Look at the contrast in this image. The tonal range is gorgeous. And you know what the difference is? This is not an HDR. This is a single frame. He said he went back and he looked at it and he said, I didn't really need an HDR for this. I didn't need to do it. It's a forced HDR. And I wanted to point this out to people because a lot of people with landscape photography use HDR for every image that they create. Keep in mind that when you use HDR software, it will often compress the natural tones that are there. It's looking for averages in every pixel. And so it ends up being much flatter than the original image would be if it were processed with a standard algorithm, with a little bit of contrast, a color balance adjustment. Look at the difference. This one positively glows, and the HDR shot feels very dull, very flat, and loses all those rich color tones and all of that tonal range.
Yeah, that's a great point, Verina. And the one thing I would say too is a lot of people try the HDR thing to bring out the grunge, and this is a particular image in the stone and bring out the texture. But honestly, guys, you can do so much of that even just with clarity, like the clarity slider and the paintbrush tool in Lightroom, and you can paint layers and make things more grungy, and so it really doesn't require tone mapping. So yeah, that's a really good point, Verina, and those two images are just a glaring example of a place where you didn't need it. It's made such a huge difference not tone mapping it. Awesome.
So
Don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against HDR. If you want to use it and
No.
you like the effect, it's awesome. Go for it. It's just another tool
Yeah.
in your handbag, but don't feel that you always have to. You know?
So I think I want to add something to this. To
Mhm.
both, I definitely concur with Marina and Johnny's observation that the grunge effect in HDR or texturize effect by going to HDR and making it a high contrast HDR can bring out texturized, artsy sort of HDR-ish look. But you have to remember to use a HDR based on the objective, what objective you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to accomplish a single photo objective, both of these images sort of fits the bill. Now, other than that, why HDR is sort of lost, right? Because you can say that this image has just as much textures and they're actually more subtle, smoother, natural textures. This one is forced textures that you can see in and flatter as a look, and they have lost the colors in the doors and colors in the stone. So if you had a particular objective in mind in order to do HDR, well and great, and just go ahead and use that. But if you don't have a particular objective in mind, then step back and question, what are you using HDR for? And do you need to use HDR? And so when you create a final product, have a vision that you want to accomplish, and then use tools based on trying to get to that vision. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, Jay. And something I do on a regular basis is, if I'm not sure, I'll process something one way, make a virtual copy in Lightroom, process
Yes.
the other way, and compare it. Exactly what we've done here with Dan's image, and you can really see the difference. And I think that's, such a valuable little tip there, is don't be afraid to process an image a couple of times.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And you know what, I should point out too that Dan actually has another really nice version of this image. It's black and white. It's on the assignment. It's in the assignment forum. Check it out if you're interested. It's beautiful. And I love this shot, Dan. I actually think it's a gorgeous image. And I love that you posted the different versions for comparison. I think it's a great way to learn.
Yep, and I have to tell you that the natural image, I actually really like it, even though it's not a nature shot.
Yeah.
I love it. That's an awesome location. Wow.
Agreed. Just gorgeous.
All right.
That's our front hallway, Johnny, in our house.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No wonder
I'm
it
coming
takes
to
such a
your
long.
place.
No, wait. No wonder it takes such a long time to clean the house.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. So here's a shot by P.D. Morgan.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
I have to say that I love the tonal gradation in this image. It is similar to the one that Ugo posted. Great tonal range. I also like the golden color, and I'm assuming that Patty used a long lens to take the shot just from the composition. However, one thing I would suggest that you don't do in a photograph is your composition and subject matter has to be appealing. The mountains are appealing, the layers are great. However, the little tower over here, if this is a landscape shot, is particularly not very appealing. So if it was a giraffe and a tree in Africa, awesome, right?
All you have to do is go get a giraffe, and this will be perfect. No.
If it is power lines or cell phone towers or high-rise buildings in a landscape photo, and if that is what draws your attention in the entire image, then the image sort of loses its appeal a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jay. And I mean, this is a type of image I actually really like. I've produced a few of these, and wherever you can find the mountains where they fold into each other and they go back on a gradient into the light, like you can see on the right-hand side there, it's a close example of that sort of look. Is amazing. So I think you're heading in the right direction, but I totally agree with Jay. I don't think the power line really does the image justice. Even if you focus more on that fold or found a couple more folds together of the mountains in the background, that makes such a stronger image.
Yeah, and I agree completely. I would do exactly what Johnny suggests. All I would do in this shot is I would take a longer lens, zoom in on that fold, and fill the frame with it. That's where this image speaks. I think it's gorgeous.
Or just have a giraffe go over there and do a little hula.
I think we should have Jay. Yeah, I think we should have Jay go over there and do a little hula.
Hey,
That's yeah.
Agma workshop, I don't know how many times I actually pose for people so that instead of a power line, they would use my silhouette
Yeah.
as a object of as a foreground object. So
I just wanted to mention too, just about your watermark there. I mean, yeah, I understand what you're trying to do there with the watermark, and it is really subtle, but I do think it tends to take away from the image a little bit. I think it would be better to go with something a little more subtle in one of the corners, you know?
yeah.
Anyway, that's just my opinion, and I know everyone's got a different opinion, but that's mine about your watermark. I understand watermarking is important, but yeah, have a think about where you place your watermark.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little distracting over there on the left, taking up
Yeah.
so much of the frame.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The next one is Oleg. Right now, I'll let you go for this one.
You know what I love about this shot is the depth in it. That leaf is just so cool. It looks like it's coming right out of the frame. It's coming towards me. I have gorgeous, water droplets covering the leaf from one end to the other. I love that about it. And there's a lot going on in the background. You know, there are all these other leaves. There are other colors in here. And yes, I know it's supposed to be a single color, but you know what? It feels like a single color image, and it feels like a single point of interest as well, despite the distracting elements behind. Because you've taken this leaf and it looks like it's reaching out to me, like a hand almost reaching out of the frame. I think that, Oleg, you did a great job in making it the most important element in the frame. So I love it.
So I actually agree. I think I love the shot, but let me give you a couple of suggestions for improvement over here. One is about your composition. This leaf over here on the right side feels really close to the frame. And I don't know if you cropped it or not, but I would have just slightly moved the camera maybe to the left. Pointed it to the right or taken a step towards the right.
No. It's a horizontal shot. Solution.
It's a horizontal shot, but fine. It's a horizontal shot would work too, but I'm just saying that leave space, whatever it is. However,
well, I think if my point is that if you move to the right, then you actually lose the points of the leaf on the left.
No, I'm not talking about move to the right by 5 steps. I'm talking about move to the right so that there is probably 5 millimeter space over here and not a third of the space over here. So if this was like, say, placed right here and this leaf was placed over here, you would not lose anything.
I think you still would, because there's still the point of the leaf on the top right, or the back part of the leaf sticking out. So I feel like it's still too tight, even if you do that. That's my point. Using a horizontal composition instead would eliminate some of the distracting elements, top and bottom, give the leaf a little more space, and you'd have more room to breathe. So that's my point there.
Okay.
I was just going to say, and there's the tip: always shoot a landscape and a portrait shot. You never know.
Right.
Exactly.
You never know what you're going to need when you get home.
So anyway, my point is, this feels too close. Whether you do it horizontally, whether you take a step to the left, whatever the case is, it is too close, and it would be a good idea. The second thing I noticed is there is a glare on the leaf. It isn't quite bad. However, I wonder what would happen if there was a polarizer used and that glare came off. And would it work better or would it work worse? I don't know. So there is that thing. I don't know if you used a polarizer and the glare was still there and you weren't able to reduce it any further, fine. But always experiment with a polarizer and see if the glare comes off. And the next point that I do want to make is that I didn't check the metadata for this image and I didn't know what aperture you used. A lot of times in an image like this, we will use 2 different apertures. Let's say if this was taken at a f8 or f16 or f11, I would take another shot at f4 and replace the background elements with f4 by doing a simple masking. What this allows you to do is the distracting elements that Rena was talking about in the background, even if it is a horizontal shot, you can actually reduce a distracting element by going to a lower aperture and then masking and combining the two shots together.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think would be nice along those same lines is if the very closest point of the leaf were sharp.
Yeah, this one, right?
Yeah. And again, that's going to require focus stacking probably, because your depth of field when you get this close to an object is tough. You know, even at a really narrow aperture, it's going to be hard to get the depth of field that you need to get the entire plane of that leaf in sharp focus.
But it's still a pretty good shot. I mean, we both loved it.
Yeah, I love it too, and I think it's those sort of situations are really hard. And exactly what Jay said, taking those two different shots at different apertures, I think, really makes it easy to clear up that background and focus on that point of focus. That's a really good point. Really good point.
All right, so let's look at a Matthews photo over here. I love this camouflage bug over here. So, Raina, you want to go, or do you want me to go on this one?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so one of the things I noticed is that this part of the image is absolutely great. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor.
Yep.
And it is sharply in focus. Everything is perfect. However, the first lower half of the image is blurred, and upper half of the image is blurred. Now, when I look at this photo, I know what happened. You focused in on the bug and the eye, and everything is sharp. But in that case, why not just crop it so that it is a panorama? Or change your perspective and go down lower so that your camera is in plane with this ground. And then what you are going to do is you're going to have the same effect as Kelly's image would. Or Tanya's image would, which would be a narrow strip which is in focus. So what you can do is you can actually have just this part of the bug be in focus, or if you move it slightly to the left, you have a body of the bug in focus, everything below it just a total blur, and everything above it a total blur. And then the image will feel like you didn't know what to do with this. In this image, it feels like you didn't know what to do with this extra space over here, which is out of focus, and extra out of focus space up here. And everything will be sharply in focus. So that's one solution to the problem. The other solution to the problem is focus stack. You can focus once over here, once on the bug, once over here. If the bug stood still, you can focus stack on this image, and within just a couple of simple steps, have everything sharply in focus.
Yeah, so in the end, it comes down to what you want to accomplish with your finished photograph. If you take Jay's suggestion to get down low and line yourself up with that bug in your plane of focus, then you have a really soft, really soft foreground and background, and your bug stands out from your background a little more. If your goal, though, is to hide the bug in the frame as you have here, then Jay's other suggestion of maybe focus stacking might be a better option, or of course just the pano crop.
Yep. So, but good job, by the way. I actually like the image. It's very subtle. I had to look closely to find the bug.
Yeah, actually, that's what I like about it, how it's hidden there. My other thought, if you could only get the image captured this way because the bug moved or whatever, it seems a little bright in the bottom right for me. I probably would have manipulated either a vignette or used the radial tool in Lightroom or something and just focused a bit more in on the bug. That's what my eye sees anyway. The big white sort of area across that blurred crease,
right here,
which might have helped it a little bit too. So.
Yeah, I wonder if the textures were there, it would be not so bad. But
yeah, you're probably right. If it wasn't blurred, it probably wouldn't be so obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, Johnny. I think it just draws your eye a little bit away from that bug. It's a distraction.
Yep.
I agree.
All right, so here's the last image that we talked about. Connie's image. This is subtle and beautiful, but guess where your eye goes in this image? And I think people made a suggestion. So good suggestion by the community is your eye goes onto the darkest object, which stands out.
Yeah. The big heavy dock there on the right is pretty distracting, and I really want the point of interest to be that awesome bird.
Yeah, so what we did was we suggested that I know Connie posted this again and the shot she posted had really bad noise on it, and she kind of admitted, saying, "Oh, my noise, this is really bad noise on it." So my suggestion to her was, take this shot and just crop it. And if you crop it and leave everything as is, you'll get a crop which looks like this.
But without all the noise.
Yeah, without all the noise that is gone. But I actually made one other suggestion. I went in and I actually suggested a couple of other things. One is to actually go ahead and take some of the lower portion out if you want. And
Did you move that bird?
Yeah, I actually made it fly a little faster so it moved into the frame. What is neat is, because the image is so low contrast, you could just grab this bug and just drag it with a content aware tool, and you end up with this. There is almost nothing required to just move that bug with a content aware tool.
Yeah.
He's moving birds now.
Yeah, well, I have to remember, I'm not technically moving it. It's just imagining the bird being somewhere else in time.
Right. Well, and you know what? I always say, it's your photography, it's your art, you can do whatever you want, and if you want to move your birds around, by all means, go right ahead. So yeah, I'm with Jay on that one. If you want to move your bird, Connie, move your bird. If you don't want to move your bird, if you don't feel good about that, that is completely okay too.
Well, I was just giving you all the possibilities that are possible with the bird flying away from you.
Right.
So.
It is a gorgeous image, and you know what? It was nice to see the images from Connie, and she was making some effort in making some changes. I know that she's pretty new to the community, and I always love that. I love to see people getting really involved right away, because you know what? That's how you learn. This is the best possible way to learn. We cannot learn for you. You have to do it on your own. We're here with the community, but it really comes down to individual effort, and I just love that. So good job, Connie. In fact, good job to everybody who not only submitted their images to this assignment, but also to those who critiqued, who commented, who made suggestions. It's huge. The input that people have in the forums, in the community, in the discussions, in the assignments, it's huge. There's no better way to learn.
Yeah, and getting involved, you're exactly right, Verena. Getting involved is the way forward. You're going to get thousands or more % out of it if you get involved. Even critiquing, there's the things that I've learned from critiquing other people's images over the years. That's where I've learned my most. Reading other people's critiques and critiquing images. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even though you may not always agree with other people on the critiques, but it is important for you to have your own viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's completely okay to agree, and you'll see, again and again when we do these critiques, Jay and I don't always agree. In fact, we often disagree, and yet those sometimes are the most valuable critiques, because you hear from more than one voice, from more than one opinion, and, it's important to form your own. You're the artist. You win every single time, but it's good to hear it.
All right, so it's about time we close off this. Great assignment. Next assignment is about golden hours, and we already have some great entries. So make sure you go full blast with this, because every photographer loves to shoot golden hours. So we'd love to see your entries in there, and we'll do another critique next month and see what we got.
I just want to know if people get bonus points for doing sunrise golden hour as opposed to sunset golden hour.
Then how could you tell whether it's sunrise or sunset?
Just kidding.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Bye. See you guys next month.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.